Welcome back to the Photo Banter podcast. I'm your host, Alex Gagne, and on today's podcast, I speak with photographer, musician, and professional skateboarder Ray Barbee. Ray Barbee has exhibited his photography around the world, done collaborations with Leica cameras, Ilford Film, and Van Shoes, to name a few. Beyond his work with photography, Ray is a touring musician and has been a professional skateboarder for over 25 years. Ray started his skate career riding for Pau Peralta skateboards and had video parts in the legendary Pau Peralta videos titled Ban This and Public Domain. Ray is someone who I've been a fan of since I was a kid watching his skating, and more recently I've become a fan of his music and photography, so I was really excited to get a chance to speak with him. So I hope you enjoy it, and thanks so much for listening. All right, well, Ray Barbee, welcome to the podcast, man. Really excited to have you on. Been a big fan of your work for years. You do a lot of different things, music, photography, skateboarding, so excited to get into it. And a small story, growing up, one of my good friends, Alexis Sablon, was sponsored by the same company as you, The Firm, and whenever she'd get a box, they'd throw in a Ray Barbee board in for me. So for years, I only skated your board, man. So I figured I'd just tell you that story.
Well, dude, right on. I didn't know you skated. So super cool, man.
Oh yeah, a long time. But I guess, man, to start off, I was kind of curious. Like, we're kind of living in crazy times right now. The last 4 months has been a lot going on in the world. I guess, like, how's the last 4 months been for you? Like, have you still been like inspired to be creative and create music or skate or create photography, or like how's life, man?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, understatement, right? Of just how heavy just this time is, right? And starting, yeah, it's so crazy to think that it's been 4 months, you know.
Yeah.
So I would say early on, like the first month, you're just kind of like, woo, right? Like that the learning curve, or not the learning curve, but just the contrast of like, whoo, we're going to commit to staying in, right? Like during that time, I'd say during that time was kind of more just kind of, mellow, in the sense of not feeling this urgency to be doing stuff, It was a big, like, exhale, like, okay, what does this look like? What's going on, right? So I would say that first month was a lot of just kind of, on the upside of that, like, wow, spending all this time with my family, because I'm always traveling and everything, and just the rhythm and the patterns of our family, because my wife Stephanie, and then we have two boys, right? So our oldest Nolan, who's 18, and youngest Max, who's 13. And so, Max still being in middle school, and my wife being a teacher, the routine was, me getting Max when I'm in town. The alarm goes off at 5:30. She's out the door at like 6:30 for work. Then I can't really go back to sleep because I've got to get the boys up, or I've got to get Max up at, 7, and then take him to school.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of this like, wow, we can sleep in, wow, we're all hanging out. Wow, we're spending all this time with each other, but we don't want to kill each other. Like, and so there was a neat little, weird kind of, that dynamic happening, and then, in that last about a month, and then it was just like, okay, what am I doing? Like, I want to do something, and so thankfully, right around that time, Vans had reached out to me, Van Shoes, and, because from time to time they'll reach out to me to do music for some of their like commercial spots and things like that.
Yeah.
And they had this campaign that that was geared towards the Olympics, that they were still gonna, even though it was at that time, even though it was already came out that the Olympics were going to be pushed, they still were moving forward with this campaign, right? And the campaign was like, it was like, I think they're creating like 11 30-second spots, but they wanted one song to kind of be the identity stamp to bring them all together kind of thing, And so that opportunity came early on, which was fun because then, I was like, okay, cool. Let's work on music. Let's record this, working with the director. And it's a process to create music for their vision or create music that can function and serve the visual, right? Because you're scoring for 30 seconds. It's like a 30-second score, which the challenges in that is its own other can of worms, right?
Do you like that? Do you like that challenge? Because like a lot of your work, you're just kind of music-wise, you're just kind of creating yourself. But like even like photography, because I noticed you'll do some stuff with like some of the brands you work with, like be it Vans or Element. Do you kind of like that challenge of like working in the parameter of like a project that someone else is kind of collaborating on?
I love collaborating with people. And I acknowledge also that some of my hesitation to put myself in that scenario is tied to me feeling like I might not pull it off. You know what I mean? But I'm very grateful that because of the community and because this isn't what I do and people know this isn't what I do, when they do come to me, it's very open for me to do what I do in the context of what they need. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's like a and I think also I can tell early on if this is something like I feel confident in that. It's like bombing a hill, right? Like when you bomb a hill, there's a certain window where you can bail off and not get pummeled and rocked, and the momentum won't take you, right? Yeah. And you can kind of stomp it out, right? Like run it out. And I guess what I'm trying to say is like I kind of trust that moment when I'm talking and giving the first attempts. I can kind of sense like, you know what? Okay, I feel like I can take this hill. I feel like I can get to where they want, right? Or, you know what? Nah, I'm going to bail out. Like, maybe you guys should get somebody else. You know what I mean? And so I'm thankful that I haven't had to bail out. And I'm been more encouraged by having rolled out without slamming, if you will, at the end of the projects, But anyways, it was nice to have that that project at that time, and to be able to focus on music and creating for this, And then right after that, I have another friend that does a podcast called Comfort Monk, and and it's like a music podcast, real, interviewing musicians and things, But the crossover with skateboarding and stuff, and same thing, like those guys come from skating, so they want to interview some skaters that play music and things. And so they came up with wanting to do an compilation with all the artists. What I mean to say is all the artists that were guests on the podcast covering each other's songs.
Oh, wow.
And so you have a list of, I guess it'd kind of be the equivalent of like your podcast for photographers. It'd be the photography equivalent of like, say everybody printed in the darkroom, right? And so it'd be like, okay, Ray, pick somebody who I've had on my podcast that you print their neg, basically. You know what I mean? And so, anyways, that project was fun because I looked and saw, I'm friends with one of my heroes, Steve Mike Watt from the Minutemen and Firehose, and played with the Stooges, and one of his first bands was with his ex-wife, Kira Raza from Black Flag. They have a band together called Dose.
Okay.
And it's two basses, And so I saw that Kira was on the show, and then being friends with Mike, I was like, man, I want to cover a Dose song. So that project was fun because Kira sings and writes a lot of that music. And so it was neat to try to create something that would honor, their idea and what they do, but have my fingerprint on it,
Yeah,
and
that's pressure, man,
and I,
because it's like you're taking someone else's work, and it's like you got to show respect to it. It's like you feel like it's an added level of like pressure, kind of.
it's printing someone's neck.
Yeah, it's like
I
hey
just
Ray, don't disrespect my neg, man.
Yeah, man. Don't have some blown out highlights and dark shadows. Like, give me
Exactly.
a full tonal print, right? And so that was fun because I got my friend Rachel Ann, who she plays in a band with her husband, Matt Rainwater, and Tony Alva. Tony Alva plays bass in that band, and it's called His Eyes Have Fangs.
Yep.
And so the direction that I wanted to approach, I was like, man, Rachel Ann would be great for this. So thankfully, with technology, I could cook up of the bulk of the idea of the arrangement and then send it over to her, and then she records her vocals and everything, sends it back to me via, I think we used WeTransfer or whatever,
Yeah.
and then I reached out to my buddy Chuck Treese out in Philly, and I'm like, Chuck, like, could you put some drums on this? I'm kind of hearing kind of like a trip hop kind of approach or whatever,
Yeah.
kind of in the vein of Portishead or whatever. And then Chuck go into the studio, record it, send me back the files, and then me go over to my buddy Carlos, and who's got a home studio set up out in Eagle Rock. And then, so that was a fun project. That was on the back end of the Vans project. So anyways, like the first 2 months, it was just good to just kind of be functioning in music, and I have been just trying to work on a new album and work on a project musically and stuff. So just now starting to get back out and skating,
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been mostly music, because even shooting, the way I shoot is capturing my life, but my family, they're so over my shooting,
Oh,
and I want to be
really?
respectful.
They're sick of
Oh
it.
yeah, of course, man. They've gone through so many years of and my kids are of the age now where it's just they don't want dad pointing his lens at them all the time, and I want to be respectful to that. So,
Yeah.
and because we're mostly staying here, I'm not trying to shoot them. I'll shoot little moments and little things, but
Hmm.
for the most part, there's not much shooting happening. I really wish I had my own private darkroom, because I feel like I'd have like 3 shows printed by now.
Yeah, that's like the tough thing I struggle with too, because most of my photography is like portrait based and people and like documentary, and like you said, like most of your work is based on this kind of shooting your life. It might be your skate friends, your music friends, or wherever you're traveling, and we're in this like weird time where like it's like you can't interact with people because we have this virus. So it's like I'm like I'm in month 4, and I'm like got like photo withdrawals, man. Like I want to get out there and shoot, but at the same time I'm like still trying to be safe, because it's like this ongoing thing. You don't know what it's gonna be.
Totally. Yeah. And I do want to work on a project where it's panoramic and shooting like, abstract approach to street spots, basically,
Yeah.
Um, but a lot of the ideas for that is traveling
Hmm.
for the spots and things, and so, but it reminds me of like I started playing guitar right when I started skating, but it always took a back seat to skateboarding,
Yep.
right, until high school, and then I started playing a little more because I met friends at high school that were playing in like a classic rock band, and they knew that I dabble with guitar, and so they're like, come jam with us, and through that it kind of it motivated me to pick up the guitar more and kind of progress and get past the power chord punk rock thing that I started with,
Hmm.
and so, but it was during the times of me hurting myself that I had the most growth skateboarding. I mean, I'm sorry, playing music.
Oh, because you had the time.
Tweak my ankle. So now what am I gonna do? Oh, cool, play guitar. Why not? You know what I mean? And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm thankful that there's a verse in the Bible that I love. It says there's a proper time and procedure for every matter.
Yeah.
And so right now it's a time and procedure for, it's not really set up to be shooting.
Yeah.
It hasn't really been set up to really skate. It's starting to, but functioning in the music. So it's reminding me of that kind of just times where one thing takes the front seat, if you will, depending on circumstances and everything. And so during this time, music's kind of taking it,
That's cool.
where with the traveling and everything,
the
photography was taking it, you know what I mean? Like, and so, it's like, look, I trust that, man. We're going to get back to it,
Mm-hmm.
It's all right, It's like my buddy Salman Agha, pro skater. I don't know if you remember Salman, but but anyway,
and
Salman,
owner of Pizzanista, a badass pizza spot in Los Angeles.
Yeah, totally, yeah. And so Salman would always say, like, times when he'd spend X amount of days of not skating, he's just like, look at, man, you eat till you're full, and then you wait till you're hungry again, you eat again.
Yeah.
And it's just that kind of approach to, his interests and things that he does, and so I'm getting hungry to be shooting. I'm just not at the restaurant yet. We'll wait till, the opportunities arise again to be like clicking away and exploring ideas and stuff, but I guess what I'm trying to say is it's all right that it's not functioning right now.
Yeah, you can't, I think having this amount of time myself is I think I learned is you have all this time. It's you can't really force creativity. Interesting thing about you is you do a lot of different things. Like we said, you do photography, you do music, and you skate. And how do you approach those three different creative endeavors? Is it kind of just like you said, you just kind of when you're feeling it, you kind of your eggs are in the photography basket, or your music is this you're in this lane where you're being creative in that route, or you kind of get in the routine of skating a lot, or how do you kind of balance all those different things you do? Because it's really amazing that you're really good at all three of them.
Oh, that's encouraging. Thanks for the compliment. But I feel like accessibility and functioning, and I guess what I'm trying to say is that all of the interests that I've been exploring or gravitate towards or try to, develop, if you will, because there's so many interests, but some don't work out because of it's not conducive to the others. Does that make sense? And so, playing guitar and skateboarding work together because at some point your body is going to be too tired to skate.
Yeah.
So when you're not on your board, what are you doing? And when you're 13, 14, and you're a part of this community and culture that's just so rich with creativity and with, what I always call the various patches of the quilt being skateboarding, but the patches being all the various, interests or crafts that comprise of it, whether it's photography, cinematography, music, graphic arts, art, you know what I mean? This is what builds the culture and the industry for that matter, right?
Yep.
And so, I guess what I'm trying to say is there was a natural desire to pick up an instrument because as we're skating, because I grew up in the backyard ramp era of the late 80s, so our soundtrack was all this punk rock music, you know what I mean? And because MTV had just came out also, then there was that influence also, right with the listening to punk at the sessions, but then seeing live bands on TV 24/7 because MTV when it first came out, they had the lofty aspiration of being 24/7 music channel, but because there was no videos at that point, like people weren't making, themed or videos for a song, then so much of the stuff was concert footage, So you're seeing a lot of people performing, through MTV. And so it was a combination of that and, the music and the music aspect of skateboard culture that drew me to like, man, I want to play guitar.
Yeah.
And then the accessibility came through skateboarding because my friends that I skated with were playing in punk bands. And then they were the dudes being like, hey, the Faction is playing, let's go see them because it's an all-age gig or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the exposure to all of that stuff, that plays such a huge part of you actually doing it, And so, again, I eventually got in the punk band because basically when I got into skateboarding, it was in between 6th and 7th grade. And so it was the summer before 7th grade. And so my friend that I cruised around and, we got into whatever we were getting into in our neighborhood, my friend Danny, his dad got him a skateboard for his birthday because his birthday was that summer, right? It was over in the summer. And so he gets a skateboard. Typically, we're always riding our bikes around. But he gets a skateboard for his birthday, and now he's on the skateboard, and I'm on my bike, and I'm just like, dude, I want to get one of those. And we go back to school for 7th grade, and we're trying to hang out with the surfer skaters because now we're like, dude, we're skaters, right? We got a skateboard because I was able to get one because his dad, who got him a skateboard, his dad grew up in the park era with skateboarding, I should say, in the 70s when the parks were happening in the late 70s or throughout, mid 70s, but they were demolished early 80s, late 70s because of insurance premiums skyrocketing and people couldn't keep the lights on, and so he had his old 70s Sims Woodkick in the garage, and when Danny was riding his new board, which was a Veriflex Vectra, and I'm on my bike and I'm crying, being like, I want to get a skateboard, and he's like, dude, I think my dad will give you his old one. I think I know where it is in the garage. Sure enough, there it was in the garage. And so I finished out the summer skating on that board with Danny. So we go back to school, 7th grade, and now our identity, at least we think, is, dude, we're skateboarders, right? And then we saw where the skateboarders and the surfers hung out. They hung out at the wall, and they were the cool dudes, right? And we were just like, dude, we want to identify with those guys. Like, we want to be with them, right? But we didn't know any of them, and we were so afraid. And so we hung out at the other end of the wall, trying to be a part of it, but not get found out that we're not a part of it, not only by other people, but by them, And so sure enough, one of the guys comes over to us and just like introduced himself, and he's like, what do you guys do? And we're like, oh, we skate, even though our clothes, like, we're still wearing, I don't know, I probably had some Chuck Taylors and Levi's and like a La Tigra shirt or something, but those dudes had like Vans, and they had like surf shirts or skate shirts, Santa Cruz. So I grew up in San Jose, California, so Santa Cruz is just an hour away,
Got it.
So there's a lot of Santa Cruz skateboard stuff, But basically, those dudes that embraced us, the brotherhood of skaters that were like, we skate too, come hang out with us, those dudes opened me up and showed me the culture. And those are the dudes that played in punk bands and had a quarter pipe at the house. So, after school, they'd have band practice. I'd hang out during the band practice. And then after band practice, we'd skate the quarter pipe at the same house in the garage, And so it was through those guys that playing guitar became accessible to me. But you can see the way it functioned. It can slot in the process. We'll do that right here, and then we go skate. And then when we can't skate anymore and the neighbors are saying, okay, enough's enough, then we can go back to playing, right? And so so I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, these interests that I have, it's like a Tetris-y kind of thing where these are interests that fill in the gaps in between the other interests.
Mm.
And where photography fell in so well is, especially traveling and touring, playing music, or traveling in general, all that downtime, especially a music tour, where, that regiment is, you go, wake up, everybody links up, we got to make our way to the venue. Sound check is at 2:00. Sound check is done. Doors don't open till 8 or 9. You don't go on until 11. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of time to just be having fun, exploring the place with your camera, or just documenting this experience with these people that not only do you have an emotional connection with, but others do too. And so, anyways, the camera fell right in with the skateboard and the guitar. And literally, because I'm traveling with my skateboard and my guitar on me, and I got my camera,
Yeah.
And so it's like it's the nature of them being able to fill in the gaps. That allows it to function.
Yeah, it's just natural. You kind of just go with it. It's part of your life, and a lot of people like looking at you've like accomplished a lot within skateboarding and music and photography now, and like when you're first starting out, like when you first picked up that skateboard or camera or the guitar, were these things that like came naturally for you? And are you just someone that is just like focuses in really well, like when you're trying to learn a new skill or something? Because I think a lot of people like myself, I never played music. Like when I look at a guitar, it's just like I don't know anything about it. So when you kind of look back at those times when you first got into these two different skill sets, is it like, did it just take you a long time to keep practicing? And like, what do you kind of tell people that are maybe interested in kind of picking up that guitar for the first time? Because it can be intimidating for people,
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, man. Like, one thing that skateboarding inherently builds in you, right, is this tenacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a work ethic that gets ingrained, right? But what's tied to that work ethic is perseverance. Like you're not easily discouraged.
Yep.
Especially if you're getting to a place to where you're working on a video part or you're sponsored, right? Like I guess what I'm trying to say is like I believe God's given everybody their abilities and their talents and everything, but you have to work it out, right? And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that like I don't believe in the like, wow, like people would say about like Guy Mariano, like or Daewon Song, or these pro skateboarders that they're kind of like wine, man. Like the older these cats get, they get better.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want to chalk that up to like, oh, it's just a natural talent or such a God-given talent or whatever. But I feel that dishonors the hard work that those dudes applied that talent to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the person with a good work ethic could do more than the person with that natural talent that people are saying. Natural talent doesn't just do it. Like, you have to work hard. You know what I mean? And I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, skateboarding taught me that, just that work ethic of, like, man, you got to stick with it and you got to work hard at it. But not only do you have to do it, but you, like, I thrive on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like,
you love it.
I need it.
Yeah,
I need it to feel like it's a craft, right? When I wanted to start shooting photos, like there were a lot of things that kind of got me over, I don't know how you want to say it, the hump of just talking about it, but doing it,
Mm-hmm.
And it was me coming to a place of realizing that I'm blowing it, that, man, what a neat opportunity to do what we're afforded to do.
Yeah.
Because of riding a skateboard, you know what I mean? And not only that, but understanding that, like, well, thinking also that, man, why aren't I capturing these moments?
Yep.
Right? Because these are special. Like everything about this I feel is special, right? And then I started thinking, how fun would it be to do that in a way that even adds worth to that moment, that expresses that moment in a way that even makes it that much. There's like even another element to elevate that moment, if you will. And that's where I started thinking, like, man, like just admiring and having such respect with the craft of like a master printer, you know, like growing up in skateboarding, and thankfully because of the opportunity to get sponsored and turn pro and to be around such gifted and talented photographers in skateboarding, and at a time where these dudes had their own dark rooms, or these dudes would print their photos in the mag at the dark room at the magazines, because Thrasher and Transworld had their printers there and they had the dark room. They functioned in that way. Me being exposed to that and being aware of the qualities of that, that played a huge part of me wanting to get in the dark room and create prints.
Yeah.
And so the printing was just as much, if not a little more, of the motivation behind wanting to document these moments in my life, because I wanted to see the completion of it expressed in this print that was singing and exciting and just speaking to me, you know?
Yeah, you have like an interesting perspective on photography. I think that a lot of people probably don't, in regards that you've been a pro skateboarder for a long time, and like part of the job, if you want to call it that, is getting photos. Like, might be a catalog for the brand, so they're going to shoot portraits of you in the clothes. Then it's like getting the action photo of you doing tricks and stuff. So you're like, you spent this time in your life being in front of the camera as well as behind. Like, it's kind of like when you're like a pro skateboarder early on and you're like collaborating with these other photographers who are photographing you, did you kind of draw inspiration from those people? And is there like anything you kind of learned from being on the other side of the camera, you think?
Well, it's, you know, I drew, it inspired me so much that's what I'm trying to say led me to shooting, was being exposed to their craft.
Yep.
Being, you know, like us going out, like Tobin Yeelan or Gabe Mulford, like us going out and getting a photo for a Thrasher interview in San Francisco or something, and then you know, they shoot a photo, and then I see them a couple days later and they hand me a print, and they printed it in their dark room, and I was just like, how special that felt, you know. Or going to their shows, you know, when they'd have their shows at the skate shops or galleries, and seeing their prints, and just being like, just having so much respect for that craft.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And me knowing that that's a part of the craft.
Yeah.
And knowing that, like, not everybody can do that. Like, you have to work hard to get to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I love that about skateboarding. Like, it takes almost, I don't know what it is nowadays, maybe half the time, but, you know, you spend almost a good year really getting a handle on how to ollie.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But without the ollie, you can't do anything. So the learning curve, just to hop in, the investment, just to get that part before you can even fathom a lot of the other things that you might be inspired to attain to, you know? And obviously I'm talking about street skating. Ramp's a whole different thing.
Yep.
But learning curve is still super steep.
Yeah, you gotta,
you know,
you gotta have patience.
Yeah, you have to have tenacity,
Yep.
and committed. You know what I mean? And you can't be easily discouraged. You have to have a lot of rejection and push through it, you know? And so I guess that informed a lot of what interests me is, you know, that fight, if you will, or just that craft. Like, it's like, man, I'm not going to get to this. When you look at somebody's print and you're like, man, this print is beautiful. That cat worked hard, dude.
Yep.
to be able to do that, like years. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like the craft, to
Thou-
build that craft.
Thousands of sheets of paper. Like I'm sure, like everyone, the first
Dude.
time they get in the dark room, you're just trying to figure it out. You're trying to figure out how to get your easel right, so it's like perfectly like lined up, so your photo's not in the bottom right hand corner, and it's just kind of figuring out not how to overexpose it and learn how to dodge it the right way.
Yeah.
Because like
And you're talking about the hurdles of the craft.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
back then, because I remember when I first picked up a camera, I was shooting with flash, and I didn't really understand what shutter sync was, and I was like,
Yeah.
why is there a black line in the middle of all my photos? Not realizing that I was shooting too fast, which back then I probably burned through like 10 rolls of film before I figured out what it was, because there was not like YouTube back then, you know what I mean? So it was like
Yeah, totally.
you actually had to like
Yeah.
read a book or talk to somebody.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, man, it's like, for me, it's such a huge part of the experience is the process,
hmm
you know? And so, one thing that skateboarding kind of taught me too, when I say skateboarding, meaning the culture and the community, was, you know, putting that work in before you're putting it out there
Yeah.
also, you know? And trusting people to let you know if it's happening or not,
hmm
you know, if what you're doing is functioning, you know? Um, and a lot of that comes from, I guess, just kind of, you have a high, skateboarding creates a high standard to your work that you try to attain to, because skateboarding doesn't lie, if you will. Like, if you have an idea to do something, you're either going to make it or you're going to slam. There's no faking it,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And so because of that, and because skateboarding, you know, as much as I love it, it's probably the most critical community there is, you know?
Oh yeah, definitely. So
Um,
much of it. There, like people, I'm sure you run into this, like people criticize you because I have friends who are pro skateboarders, and they'll be like, "Why are you sponsored by this person? Like you're a sellout." Or like, "Why are you doing like varial flips?" Like people will shit on varial flips for some
totally,
reason. So it's
totally,
like,
totally.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
weird.
yeah. So when you grow up in that environment, to stay in that environment, you develop a tough skin. But what you develop also, again, is this kind of uh, uh, standard also.
hmm
And that standard serves you, I feel like, because if you surround yourself with the people that have similar standards and you trust them to speak into what you're doing, then I feel like that plays a big role in how skateboarders have a higher rate of pushing into other things and being able to be just as good, if you will, like a Spike Jones or Jason Lee or so many people that go off into other things, but because of that standard, they bring something to that other environment that functions really well and functions at a high caliber, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you very rarely hear about like a basketball player going into hip hop and really making a mark, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and not to say that it can't happen. I just can't cite any. And that's not to say that it's not happening.
Shaq's got some hits, man. We could pull those up, Ray. Shaq's got some hits.
Yeah.
He had a
Tell
couple.
tell 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 Talib Kweli about Shaq's hits.
No, yeah, but you're right. I think that all goes back to like, and I talked to this about whenever I talk to photographers, because I think one of the interesting and the hardest things about being a photographer, and I would imagine it's similar to whatever art you're doing, like music or skateboarding or whatever, is like trying to find your voice. Like, who are you?
Oh
Like, what
yeah.
are you trying to
Yeah.
convey? And how long? And maybe you're still trying to discover it. Like, when you kind of first got into photography, like, how did you kind of find your voice? Do you start off just trying to like mimic what other people are doing, or like how do you kind of figure out like who you are as an artist?
That's a great question, man. I feel like that is the $1 million question for everybody, right? Because that's what everybody uniquely brings to the table. It's their fingerprint,
Yep.
you know? Um, And I think if people understand the value in that, then there could be a little more, I guess, wisdom towards how to attain it, which could save a lot of unnecessary kind of avenues that you can go down and not find serves that, And so, anyways, I'm just saying that's a great question. For me, a lot of times it's trusting that the hardest thing is just to get going, just to get started, just do it, right? And not get too caught up in knowing it right away, but allowing it to surface, because the work, a lot of times, if we're talking about photography, I can't encourage enough the importance of editing. Looking at your photos, I don't care what you're shooting, iPhone, digital, cameras, film, whatever, just make it a habit to edit your work, and even just looking at however many frames and just looking through it and just picking. It's something my buddy Thomas Campbell encouraged me with, because I had the honor of hanging my prints at the Leica headquarters in Wetzlar, Germany, right? And so they built a museum, they built a hotel, it's the Ernest Lights Hotel.
Damn.
And they built a building for their cinema lenses, because they want to push more towards the cinema lenses, right? And there was another building because they want to do watches, but I don't know where that's sitting.
Damn.
but at any rate, they had a big grand opening festivity celebrating the new, they call it Lights Park, right?
All right.
And so it's this experience. They're setting it up. There's a cafe there. You've got the restaurant with the hotel. They're setting it up to where you can come, stay at the hotel, and experience all things Leica. You've got the galleries, you got tours, all of that, right? And so the big grand opening for that, they wanted to have musicians that are photographers.
Yeah.
And so they reached out to me to come play, but then they wanted me to hang my prints, and I've always had this idea of, even when I first started to print in the darkroom, I was like, man, it'd be so fun to do a book, like 1 year with one camera, one lens, but I never got around to it. And 10 years later, it's like I thought about that, because I was like, dude, I'm all over the place with what I shoot, right? So and they want like roughly 15 to 20 images. I'm like, dude, what is the narrative? Like, what is this? I shoot anything and everything. and so I was like, man, maybe I could call it 10 years with one camera, one lens, And so anyways, I had like 10 years of just images to look at, right? And I can't keep up. I process on my own, right? And so I can't keep up with my shooting. And so, I've got like, at that point, it was like 200 rolls processed for that 10 years, and then probably like 300 unprocessed. And I processed like another 100 for the show, Yeah. So I had roughly 300 rolls to look at. And my buddy Thomas, he's kind of one of the only guys that I know that can actually edit himself. He's got a publishing company called Yeah Arts, and he puts his books, he edits his books, but then he helps,
Ed
Templeton.
I got Ed Templeton's book. He has his book through Yeah Arts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I reached out to Thomas, and I was like, I was doubting. I was like, man, I'll go play, but I don't know about hanging my photos. Like, cause to me, it's like Carnegie Hall for my heroes. Cause quickly I learned what kind of photography what the tools I wanted to use for the type of photos that I wanted to make, and it quickly showed me that a rangefinder was the tool of choice for what I'm wanting to do. And then the rangefinder, much like the guitar, then it opens you up to the practitioners that built the craft to such a body of work to be inspired by and attain to, if you will, you know? And so anyways, the rangefinder led me to Magnum, then Magnum led me to like the school of photography that I embraced, basically.
Yeah, it's just kind of like
which to me, yeah, the idea of like you're grabbing the moment, you know, it's not set up. It's like street skating. It's like you're responding. It's like playing music. Like you're responding and reacting. You're not. It's like improvising, like street skating. Us going out, walking out the front door and going skating. Like I'm responding to something that's in front of me that wasn't there the other day because it rained the day before or whatever. You know what I mean? Like this reacting kind of experience or whatever. And so, but not wanting to be seen, right? Not wanting some clunky mirror slap to spoil what you're trying to not hinder, you know?
Yeah, and with photography, it's like easy to get like lost in the sauce of like the equipment and the processing. So is it almost like using the Leica? It almost kind of like simplifies things for you. Like you don't have to worry about all the other like nonsense that you can use.
Well, yeah. I mean the size of it, but to be honest with you, the size and being quiet, you know, not having a mirror. If I wanted to catch a moment that Mark Gonzalez and Nadas Kapis are having, I don't want to break that moment because they hear my mirror slap.
Yep.
And now they're like looking and they're like, oh, Ray's trying to shoot photos right now. you know? And so anyways, the rangefinder, once I figured out, again, going back to like your voice, like these are all parts of these all play a big role in how you develop your voice, right? And it's dictated by what you're inspired by. So the rangefinder led me to this community of photographers who functioned from that approach, from a rangefinder and documenting moments, whether it's the war, whether it's National Geographic, social issues, whether it's just their life, or whether it's just themes and things that they're building and want to document, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And so going back to hanging my photos at Leica, they're so steeped in that culture and that community that I just had a reverence for that setting and didn't feel worthy to be in that mix, if you will. And so to be presenting at that venue because of that history and because of all that. And I'm very grateful for Thomas and Campbell and my buddy Anthony Acosta and guys that encouraged me, that were saying like, dude, stop tripping. Like you have the work, like make it happen, basically. And then so Thomas was like, look it, dude, I don't want to look at all those negs, but I'll help you. But the advice that he told me was like, make your proof sheets, go through everything, and just mark what interests you. Don't think about it. Don't put too much thought into it. Just, you know, and then you start pulling those out and see what it wants to do, you know, or see what it is, you know. And so again, going back to the importance of editing, just the process of doing that, what that showed to me, because it was a mirror into me, into my practice, right? And what I'm saying is, when you do that, you'll start to see aspects of the fingerprint trying to come through, because it's showing you what your interests are.
Yep.
Not only is it showing you that, but it's also showing you how it's functioning, if it's functioning. Because I saw a lot of ideas that I was continually trying to do that was not working.
So you had to
And I made a decision.
You got to
I made a
readjust.
decision of like, dude, I just gotta quit. Every time I see that, I just gotta stop trying to shoot that. Like,
Well,
I
like
can't make it happen.
what's like an example of like something like that you kind of when you had the time to edit, you're like, oh, maybe I need to
It's
work on.
it's more like compositional kind of ideas with certain things where you just can't really get to it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But the point is that it becomes a mirror into your practice. It becomes a mirror into your interests, you know, and it allows you to get an idea of what you're up to, basically, you know. And so that was huge for me because it was at that point where I could start to see aspects of a fingerprint, and then from there I can be inspired to, you know, the direction to develop and pay attention to.
Yeah, you just
and focus on.
Yeah, you keep building on it. Yeah, because like one series of photos that you posted on your Instagram, which I was kind of curious about. It was like a series of photos. It was all this like couples. It was just like couples that might be walking on the beach, might be like walking across the street, and is that something that you discovered through your editing that you just had these? Like,
that was all editing. So it's funny. I have folders on my hard drive where, once I started editing for the show, and then it showed what the theme was, because the overarching narrative is 10 years with one camera and one lens, but the narrative is me and my life. And then it got broke down then it got compartmentalized, right? Just subjects within that, you know, and it's like I shoot my family, I shoot travel, I shoot music, you know, I don't shoot skateboarding, but I shoot the culture and the community of it. You know what I mean? And then my faith. So there's images of we're shooting at church, or, you know, and so it helped me to kind of, well, first of all, too, the beauty of one camera and one lens is, and the beauty of, like, I just only shoot black and white because I'm the most excited about printing. I can't print color.
Yeah.
And so, but black and white's more exciting to me too, because it has the ability to be what it wants to be in the process. Like, it has freedom even within what it's documenting, because we don't see in black and white. So therefore, I don't have the accountability that color has. Mm-hmm. People have an opinion of what a color should look like because everybody has an idea of it because they see it. But because we don't see in black and white, they can't say that my black and white is wrong.
Yeah. And
so there's way more freedom to do what I want to do with that. And so it's a lot of those things that the combination of one camera, one lens, so your perspective's always coming within what that lens can do, right? And so that brings unity. So I'm more speaking on, even though there's these different subject matters, they all function well together because it's black and white, because of the way I approach, you know, composition or framing or organization, whatever you want to call it, and then it being black and white, you know what I mean? And so it allows, they all function together, right? Mm-hmm. There's a glue that all of that informs. It glues it all together, you know? Yeah. And so, so anyways, like for me, that whole process of editing, it really helped me to, again, to see what I was up to. So going back to those like little series and things, mm-hmm. as I'm looking through the negs to find out what would function in the show, I'm finding all this other stuff that they're their own little narratives and themes. And so I'm like, dang, there's another person sleeping. There's another person sleeping. And I would just put them in a folder.
People reading books. That was like another series you had.
Yeah, exactly. And this is just stuff that I'm grabbing, not really being conscious of. I'm not sitting there being like, I'm working on this project. It's just when I would see it, I would shoot it, you know?
Yeah,
And
so now
so
it like informs your work going forward. So now that you know you have that series, so like it's not so much that you're going after looking for it now, but if something pops up, like oh shit, I got another book reader today, add that to the collection, pretty much.
exactly.
Yeah.
I liken it, but when you shoot in this way, traveling and just in the moment, it's like what Person did, or you can see it in those guys' work. It was a scavenger hunt. It was
Mm-hmm.
just they're playing. It was a game.
Yeah.
It was like, dude, I want to walk around and see what I can do. Right? It's like getting out of the house and jumping on your skateboard. You know that you want to have fun and go do tricks.
Yeah.
And and it's that same kind of thing where it's like it becomes a list on your scavenger hunt. It's just more things that are in your conscience that now you're already grabbing them, but now they're a little more highlighted,
Yeah.
like what you're saying. And so that's kind of where that stuff came from. It's like I would have these folders of like readers, sleepers, couples, um, uh, flags,
Yeah.
I look at these folders and just be like, dang, they're already like 15 images deep or something,
Yeah.
and then, and when I go out and I see that, yeah, I just grab it. Cause I'm like, why not?
Yeah,
it's
because
right. It's right there. Let me just, why not add to it? And who knows, at some point there could be something interesting, a compilation of all of this or one of them or something.
do you ever like because like everyone's different like how they approach photography, like some people like working in terms of like a project, like do you ever like assign yourself a project or something like within like a parameter, or is it more just kind of like you said, it's just kind of documenting life coming at you? Because it's interesting because every photographer has a different way of like working. Like some people are like, oh, I'm going to do a project on, I don't know, Texas, or I want to do a project on some like baseball thing. Like, do you ever try to work that way
Yeah.
before, or not so much?
Yeah. I mean, I've done projects for my sponsors,
Yeah.
and so yeah, there's some like more specific kind of approaches to. Like I did a panoramic project for Element when I was riding for Element skateboards. We did a capsule collection based around my interest in photography, and so I wanted to do photos that were more accessible. I felt,
Mm-hmm.
and I was always interested in the movie format like that. I don't know if it's 16:9.
Yeah, it's like wide.
Yeah, and so, but there's no camera that has that. I mean, I guess you could probably modify a 4x5 and make a holder for it, but so then the next best thing was a panoramic, and so I wanted to explore the energy of that frame because it's so dynamic, that width, and I already have an affection towards abstraction, if you will, and so for that project, I was like, man, could be interesting to explore this panoramic, the energy of the panoramic frame, and create like a postcard book to come out with the capsule collection. Have some kind of representation of the photography because the collection is based around my interest in photography.
Yeah.
And so, so little projects like that, or Vans. Because of that, then Vans with their retail store, they have a flagship store in LA, and my buddy Aka, who's in, the art department, was like, hey, Ray, shoot some abstract street spots, like iconic LA street spots for the store, So it's little things like that where they're a little more specific, But a lot of but the panoramic, because I have a 30 millimeter with my pano, because I feel like that lens, that's what makes that camera happen, at least for me, because the energy with that lens and that format, it really is dynamic,
When you first started shooting panoramics, did it take you a while to kind of get like a feel of it? Because it's like going from like 35 to panoramic, just the composition is completely different. Like, is there anything you kind of learned from like approaching?
Well, I'm a creature of habit.
Yeah.
Like again, like I've been 10 years with one camera and one lens. Like I have a Leica M6 with a 35 Summicron, and I always say it, as far as I'm concerned, it's a fixed lens camera. And so I'm a creature of habit. Like what was really interesting about processing and looking over all those frames, I realized that I'm only scratching the surface of what this 35 millimeter lens, focal length, can do. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, it's not broke, don't fix it kind of thing. It's one less thing that I have to get accustomed to. It becomes an appendage. Like, I know what it's going to do before I get the camera in my eye. I already know the frame because of, like, I'm familiar with it, and I don't see a need in what I'm doing to switch that up. And so for me, because I'm a creature of habit, for this other project, I had to make it be something, its own thing, so it doesn't compete, I guess. It just has to be its own thing. And so that's just kind of how that serves. Like, I don't walk around shooting like I do with the M6 with that pano. I don't like shooting people with the pano.
It's more
I don't like trying to get.
It's more thought out if you're gonna use it.
Dude, it's my 4x5 and my 8x10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's my. That's how I use it. It's like, where it shines is just, landscape, architecture, just being able to be abstract and graphic with it. You know what I mean? Not trying to catch an emotion or a moment with people or anything. It's way more of like painting or graphic. I mean, it all functions in painting and graphic. Like, even the 35 stuff, it's got that, but this is expressed in such a different way, and the lens is put before different subjects, basically.
Yeah.
I don't put that lens before the same subject as I put the M6, So yeah, it's more just intuitive, and like, I'm not as comfortable with it, but there's something I embrace with that, because once you know something, then you're dealing with habits and things. And so there is that thing when something's fresh and you're exploring and you don't know what you're doing is wrong.
Yeah.
And it's really genuine to your idea and the enthusiasm of what you're wanting to do. There's something that is special in that, and that's how that felt, and the challenge of it. But when you're taking your time and you're not trying to catch quick moments, then you can manage, and I was doing this a lot, actually. I would use my iPhone. This only worked with the 45 because I did shoot some stuff that was 45, but I would just shoot it with my iPhone, crop it into a pano, and get a sense of how it was my Polaroid back. My iPhone was my Polaroid back.
Gives you an idea
for my X-Pan. You know what I mean? And I could get a sense because I could convert it to black and white in a little Photoshop app. Get a sense of where the tones are lying, and be like, okay, cool. And then boom, grab it and spend the time to place it, But that's the fun part of photography for me, is I really believe it's composition. It's the language, you know what I mean? Like, of what you're trying to express. Like, we wouldn't have this conversation if we didn't learn English and learn how to use our words to express, and there's such a respect for that compositional language. And I think that's why I love and gravitated towards my heroes, the Magnum dudes, because, man, they speak that language so well. And to me, it's like the M6 with the 35 millimeter lens, it's so versatile because you've got everybody, most of pro skateboarding, everybody's functioning from the same type of skateboard.
Yeah.
It's just wheels and the trucks, and you know what I mean? Yeah. And so, but everybody's super expressive, and there's a lot of variety and variation. You know what I mean? And so I really see within that community, they all shot with, most of them, 35 millimeter. You have guys that were 50 guys. You have guys that were 28. But they all really sat in that little cluster.
Yeah.
And I would say the bulk of it, 50 and 35, just because of the time and maybe financially, maybe there wasn't much wide glass that was as good, Yeah. But you look at all those guys' work and you're like, dude, you see them in it. and the language that they've developed with, I guess what I'm trying to say, what they chiseled with just a hammer. Nothing special about the hammer other than it's solid and can do what it needs to do, but it was the idea and the craftsmanship of the craftsmen that makes it special. And I guess that pertains to a lot of photography, but that community, when you're holding the same tool that they had and you're seeing what they do, it's not the tool.
Yeah, it's exactly, because it's like
it's their ideas. It's the way that they see light. It's what they studied and built in learning the language of composition and everything.
And how they interact with like the world around them, people. Like I could have an M6, the same one you have, but the way that like I interact with people is going to be different than you, and how you approach it is like completely different. So it's like, yeah, like everyone puts their touch on it. Like go back to skateboarding, like you said, there's one ledge, and you might do a backtail different than this guy, and every guy's going to look a little different. Everyone's got their little touch on it.
And nobody has a skateboard that is inferior to the other. Everything sits in the same space.
Yep.
That makes sense. You know what I mean? Like there's not like some wood, like one dude doesn't show up with some aerodynamic fiber skateboard that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like everybody's functioning with the same tool, more or less, you know? And so,
they just put their touch on it.
Yeah, and I guess, again, going back to just the reverence and the importance of, like, not only documenting the moment, but there's a lot of people documenting moments, but I guess what I'm trying to say is the importance of learning the language.
Mm-hmm.
There's a difference between the articulation of, you know, we're talking about hip-hop. There's certain MCs where you're just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, those dudes tied that train of thought with those words, like the craftsmanship of that, you know what I mean?
Do you feel like it's important to know the history of your craft, be it like music, photography, or even like skateboarding? Is that something like, do you feel like you take?
Well, me personally, I feel like, man, those cats are serving they're saving time.
Mm-hmm.
They've already like gone through like the hard aspect to discover, and now it's there. So there's so much worth in their experiences that can inform you and help save you time.
Yeah.
Like you could either take the long route or you can take the shorter route, and they're the shorter route to me.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like that's why skateboarding can progress so fast, is because like no matter what, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. And so like the hard work is done. The showing that it can be done is the hard work. The hardest work, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Once you see that it's done, the doubt aspect not being in the mix allows you to get to something quicker.
Yep.
Because you know it can be done. You don't have to wrestle and battle the doubt of it being done, because these cats have showed that it can be done.
Yeah.
Not only have they showed that it can be done, but they're showing you how it can be done.
Yeah.
Where they had to figure out the how and battle the what if.
Yeah, they built
you know what I mean?
They built the foundation already. It's like
they did the hard work, dude.
Skateboarding's crazy.
Right.
I was interested in talking to you about that, because like I started skateboarding in like 95, 96, and even just looking at skateboarding from now to then, which in the grand scheme of things isn't even that long of a period of time, and like the progression is like, even like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, skateboarding keeps getting more technical, it gets bigger, and people keep building on it and building on it. And as like someone, you're like been a professional skateboarder for years, like did you ever like feel the pressure to like keep up with like the technical aspect to the next guy, or did you kind of this like, I guess it goes back to style, the same thing we're talking about like photography, is like you kind of find your lane, or like how did you kind of view that aspect of it? Because like every year is crazy. It's like these guys like Shane O'Neill and Nija, it's like every month I'm like, my mind is blown. It's nuts.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the reality is for me at least, like, again, me saying earlier that, you know, you set the bar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's a standard that gets set from being a part of the community and the culture, or whatever you want to call skateboarding, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's an internal drive. It's the same drive that gets applied to everything, whether it's printing or shooting photos or playing music or whatever. That bar doesn't go away.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so that is what's behind the drive, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the ability to do these things, the humbling reality of the body deteriorating,
Yep.
that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah.
But the internal drive, what informs the internal drive, yeah, it could be aspects of like you want to stay relevant, you want to earn your keep. It's a drive to earn your keep and not have it be a handout, if you will.
Yeah.
When you're still making a living doing it, like I am,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so there is some wrapping your head and navigating those issues internally in your own heart of how you're perceiving those things,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because, you know, one thing we know is just because you feel a certain way doesn't mean it's true,
Yep.
you know, but if you're battling in your heart about your relevance or you're doubting just what it looks like to be getting older in skateboarding, but still being relevant and still having opportunities, but it's not functioning in what it used to function in, where it was all about like, you know, the performance. You know, like every skateboarder has a window in their time being a pro skateboarder.
Yeah.
And what they do in that window will dictate how long the opportunities thereafter to still be relevant and a part of the industry, if that makes sense.
Definitely, yeah. 'Cause
And so
there's like certain guys who just have like you think like Tom Penny or like Steve Caballero, yourself, like you've like, because there's like amazing skateboarders in the last 10 years that had amazing video parts and you just don't see them anymore, and that could be for a variety of reasons. Maybe they found new passions in life and they're doing different things, but it is this like it's a very hard thing to even get into that skate world, but to maintain it for as long as you have, or like Steve Cab, like what do you think it is that's been able, like the longevity aspect of like what you've done, because like not very many people can do it.
So all these names, and we can name so many names, and most of these names, all of these names are what comprises of the Skateboard Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
And so when it's your time, what you do when it's your time, because every skater has their time where they're the dudes, right?
Yep.
And so what you do during that time, the emotional connections that is made through, you know, you name it, right? Like all of the ingredients that are part of an emotional connection, the way the dude skates, you know, their style, the personality, the board brand that they're a part of, like all of those factors play a role, right? But one thing that skateboarding does is it has its own. And that's the one thing that, you know, as much as there's, you know, people want to point out the differences in skateboarding and traditional sports, there's the aspect of, I guess what I'm trying to say is the parallels of skateboarding in sports that I appreciate. The common ground is that the honor and the appreciation to people who came and contributed to it.
Yeah.
Right? So if you look at all these people that still have opportunities now, what they did in their window contributed something to skateboarding in such a way to where the community or the industry, at least the people in the industry at that time, will keep it, will want feels the importance of it still playing a role in what skateboarding is.
Yeah, you like
And
you earn that respect because it's like in my
yeah,
mind, like guys like I have no problem if Steve Caballero has a board when he's 90 years old. It just makes sense. Like Gino Iannucci, like you said, like they're in that window and they, like you said, in that window they put it down and they earn that respect to like it's like almost like, now I think of it, it's like why's Kobe Bryant or like Michael Jordan, they got their number in the rafters because for that window that they were playing, they earn that respect of like the people in
exactly.
that community. And it's like, yeah, it's
And people get just as excited. Like if Michael would have put up some footage of him being, just getting a pickup game or something,
yeah,
if footage turned up of that,
could be
get a lot of
hyped.
people excited just
Oh,
to see that,
hell yeah.
Even though he's nowhere where he was,
No,
you can't be.
no,
But the fact that my man still is out there and loves doing it, and you're going to get glimpses of that.
yeah,
You're going to get moments of that. People, like, it means a lot to people,
yeah,
And so there's and I would always trip out on, you could see Magic or Kareem sitting in the crowd. People are just as excited to see them as the people on the cats on the floor at the time.
yeah. Because it's like
depending on.
it's because I think it's like when I think about skateboarding, like I'm sure every skateboarder has this, the skate videos that meant something to you, like when you were like younger and like skateboarding was your entire life. Like for me, like some of the videos that I remember, like Modus Operandi, like that was a big video when I was like in high school or something.
Rad.
And I look
Yeah,
back and there's this like a reverence for that, like looking back on it.
totally.
And it's like, that's the interesting thing. Like I was interested in talking to you about is being a professional skateboarder. You've had this like opportunity to travel the world like 10 times over, and you could go to Japan, you could go to Europe, and you could show up to skate park and people are going to know who you are because you put in that work of like putting out video parts, the magazines. Like what does that mean to you? Like, does it still trip you out now, like when you're traveling around with vans and people they remember you from like their childhood, looking at that video, might have been the Firm or 411 or whatever it might be, because that's like an interesting thing that most people are never going to experience that in life. It's an interesting dynamic of being a pro skateboarder, especially at your level.
Yeah, I mean, I put my faith in Jesus, so I'm so grateful for His grace in just allowing me to be a part of something that I love doing, and allowing me to, I guess, be developing it at a time when it was at the start of something new.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I first and foremost, I'm just so grateful and humbled that I have that opportunity. And that was all just grace and like not earned, if you will, but received, right?
Yeah.
Because I was just stumbling across tricks,
Yeah.
but it was at a time where people hadn't seen that stuff, it was at a time when street skating was just starting, in the sense of like really the industry being like, this is our direction, we're committed now.
Yeah.
Stacy being like, let's call this street style.
Yeah.
And now let's put these like little dudes out in the streets skating, let's give them pro models. And now let's put aside the plans that we had for the next vert models.
Yeah.
Like, it shifted courses,
Yeah.
and I understand. I'm very grateful for being around during that time, because it's because of that time that you're contacting me now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And my opportunities now, and Instagram's a crazy one to see the emotional connection of that moment and that time, and so I'm just very grateful and humbled. And I guess I don't take that lightly, but at the same time, the perspective on it is that you know, God's grace. I'm very grateful, and for for people to have an emotional connection and be inspired by something that I was just doing, was going to do anyways, whether I turned pro or amateur or not,
Yeah.
for that to help them to chase their dreams and do their thing,
Mm-hmm.
dude. So like, that's where it's just like, wow,
Because like,
so grateful.
what do you think you've learned most from the aspect of traveling? Because like getting the opportunity to travel like the way you have, like most people are not going to be able to travel this that far in their life. It's just most people don't. You can, but it's hard sometimes. It's because responsibilities, people get busy,
Well, yeah,
and but the thing interesting about you guys being a professional skateboarder, you've gotten the opportunity to travel everywhere. But it's not just that you've gotten to travel. It's like when you show up to these cities, the local skate shop and the skate community, they want to show you their spots. They want to bring you to their favorite eat spots. So you get this like really inside look into like a real community. You know what I mean? That's an interesting thing I think about being a pro skateboarder. Is like not only do you get to travel, but you get to meet all these people, and those people you get to meet at those demos or skate shops, they're not only happy to, they're excited to show you their community.
yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, to be honest with you, early on it was really hard for me because I didn't really know what being a pro skateboarder entailed.
Yeah.
Like I was definitely enamored with the glitter of it, if you will, like having your own board and being in videos and magazines.
Yeah.
But I had no way to really understand like the reality of people's interest towards you because of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think for me, like when pros came to the local ramp that we skated, I just came from that, I came from that like, dude, you let these cats do their thing. They don't know you. You don't know them. Don't bug them.
Yeah.
Like, there was just this like reverence, if you will. It's just like, dude, I can't even say hi. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just come from that,
Definitely.
And so I had no way to really um, prepare for the amount of people and the attitudes because of their affection towards you because of these videos and things,
Mm-hmm.
and tours where you're like kind of nervous for your life in some ways because after the demo, this one in particular in Mexico, Bones Brigade demo,
Yep.
dude, I don't know, dude, everybody just
Swarm.
ran towards us and we were just
Shit.
stuck in the middle, dude. And I was just, oh, what the heck, dude? And they had to like get us into the van and we're in the van and they're just shaking the van, dude. And we're just like, where's the driver? Like, what the heck? And I'm 16, 17, just being like, I just want to be skating with my friends. Like, I didn't want this attention.
Yeah. You,
And then I didn't want the weird awkwardness of people like not being able to like like I learned during that time that because I always knew that like, man, just a person who just learned some tricks.
yeah.
Like, you guys do your thing. Like, I'm interested in what you do. But when people are just like, I guess the term nowadays they call it fanning out, but it's fanning out to this level where it's just like you can't really. It's very uncomfortable, at least for me.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't sitting there being like, yeah, I'm the dude. I was sitting there being like, dang, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to get out. I just want to get out of
Yeah,
here.
because at the end
I
of
just
the
want to
day,
get out of here.
you're just a skateboarder like them. When you're not on tour, you're skating the local Safeway parking lot like that kid too. You're just in California by yourself. It's really
Totally.
It's just people.
Totally. I just learned some tricks,
Yeah.
but people weren't able to. They put you on a pedestal, right? Like, they couldn't get it to, the emotional aspect of it was very, it was tough, man.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to say, it wasn't until kind of later, as kind of, getting older, where I was able to kind of, that didn't get me as much.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I could kind of more see the people that were like appreciative, but they weren't. It wasn't like an unhealthy. You know what I mean? Like, you appreciate cats, but you're like, but there's still the perspective of like, person, like, yeah, they have this ability, but doesn't make them any different than you
Definitely.
as a human being. for a value or sense of worth or nothing. It
Yeah.
doesn't change none of that. It's just like, man, like they got into something, they do it. And to me, to be honest with you, for me, it makes me be more amazed at God's glory in His, because we're created in His image. So I'm just like, it's just, to me, they're echoes of Him. And people having these abilities and talents. It's kind of like, I honor the hard work and everything, but even that ability was given to them, and so it keeps it on this plane of like, dude, nobody's more valuable than anybody else in His sight and in reality for me. You know what I mean? And so for me, knowing that the weight, the balance of the weights are so off in these moments.
Yeah.
Like, you guys, I'm not, whoa. You know what I mean? Like,
and
when people are crying and saying like, do you know who you are? And I'm like, oh my Lord.
Yeah.
Where's that back door, dude? How do I get out of this moment? Because we're not gonna. This is just gonna be some weird thing. We're just standing there, and I'm just like, I'm like, and I love people.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I'm like way more interested in them.
Yeah.
Like, dude, what do you guys do? What is it like over here? So it wasn't until I got older that I was able to. I guess it didn't have much of that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it sat in a space that was like, we could dialogue and get past that, basically.
I always respected, like, because I remember there used to be like skate demos. Like, I don't know if the companies still do this as much as they used to, but like back in like late 90s, like teams would come through my local skate park, and you'd get to see, like, I remember like Osiris came through, and then Blind, and I think like Duff's had a tour, and it was like Matt Hensley came, and it was really interesting to see the guys that like. They took it, I don't know if this right phrase, they took it seriously. Like, they went and skated the demo, and they talked to the kids, and they, like, took it seriously, whereas you could tell some guys, like, I don't know, maybe they're just, like, not good at talking to people, but, like, did you view it like that when you're touring? You're like, hey,
no,
man.
I think that's what I was meaning. It's like, once I matured and saw, like, accepted that, like, you know what, this is a moment to where I could get past that awkwardness of how they perceive me and try to break that and try to make it where it's like, no. But when I was younger, I was just didn't have that desire, didn't see that. I was just over
perspective,
like the shift in the weights of like, dude, this is so off. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, I just wanted them to like snap too.
Yeah, exactly.
And then as I got older, I realized that I can play a role in them snapping too by diffusing it, by not wanting to bounce from it, but just engage with it and call it out a little in an encouraging way, in a way that's more making fun of myself, actually.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Nah, totally,
and then
man.
try to break the ice so
be
people
human.
can relax.
Just be human.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like, relax. Like, be like, oh, okay, no, you know what? This dude is just like me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but it wasn't until my 20s that I had that desire.
No, that's smart. That's
16 and stuff, dude.
Nah,
16, 17. I was just like,
Pill
dude,
no shit.
Like, let me get with my homies. This sucks.
Yeah. Couple more questions. I guess one more question. I don't want to take up your whole day.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, you've been able to manage to, like, create this life for yourself where you're a photographer, you're a musician, a pro skateboarder. Like, what is it you think, like, how have you been able to do this and maintain it, you think? Because, like, a lot of people out there, they might be listening to this, they're working some job they hate, and they wanna like start going and doing their passion, whatever it may be, music, photography. Maybe they want to make boats. I don't know, but like, what do you think it is that like you've been able to like maintain? Because as you know, like being a creative person, it's like it ebbs and flows. Like sometimes you got jobs, sometimes you don't. I know from my friends who have been sponsored skaters, sometimes you got sponsors, sometimes they go away, sometimes the paycheck goes down. Like, how have you been able to like maintain that career of like creating this lifestyle for yourself, you think? And then I guess finally, like, what advice would you give to those people out there that want to follow their passions?
Yeah, man. I would say I'll answer the last one
Yeah.
first, the
Yeah.
last part of it. I would say, like, you can never underestimate the value and the importance of community.
Yep.
Like, community really is everything.
Mm-hmm.
And but not just any community, but like be very selective and opinionated um, about the community that you want to co dream with, if you will,
Yeah.
um, because it doesn't serve you. Like, I feel like a lot of people surround themselves. A lot of people find themselves, in a community where you have a lot of people that have ideas but aren't really doing anything,
Mm-hmm.
and in the process are bitter because someone else got these opportunities for whatever reasons and they should have had it. And so
Yep.
that's not the community I'm talking about.
Yeah. Definitely.
I'm talking about being a part of a community where with like-minded people, and that like-mindedness coming from the common interest, whatever it may be, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's from that community that opportunities will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it's through relationships and connections that you want to be in a community that that encourages and, I guess, to a certain extent affirms, validates, and recognizes
Yeah.
what you're doing and want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you're in a community that sees that and functions that way, then they're for you and not against you. And so if they're for you, then they'll think of you if something comes around where you can, uh, help or be a part of,
Yeah.
right? Because I know for me, so many of my opportunities, so much of, how I've been able to do what I've been doing for so many years comes from others,
Yeah.
comes from people at the brands, people that being like, dude, we want Ray. We want Ray to come play this event.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have Ray do the music for this. Let's get Ray's photography for this. You know what I mean? And so I guess what I'm trying to say is I've been very blessed and spoiled because it's the community that has me. Because I've never reached out for things.
Yeah.
As crazy as that sounds,
That's good.
I've just never. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm very grateful. But everybody's journey is different. I'm just more sharing my journey.
Exactly.
My journey function that way but I identify it to community.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would encourage people, be in a good community, like be aware of your community, right? And and your craft, like really, that work ethic, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
work hard at what you're doing, like,
Yeah.
because you want to give the community, you want to justify them rooting for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's
So
like.
if they're saying, let's get so and so to do this, like, well, they're not going to do it until they see that craft, anyways. A lot of times,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. And so I'm just saying, like hone in your craft, like your passion, like work hard at it, develop it. You know what I mean? But it all works together. You can't have one without the other. Is what I'm trying to say.
Definitely.
And then it's, I would say the third thing is personality, right? Like those things that you would desire in the community, be that person doing that thing in the community for others also.
Definitely.
Like if you desire to be encouraged or affirmed or whatever, like do that for them.
Definitely.
Build
Build each other up. That's the thing. It's like help other people out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not this. It's a community thing. It's not like I need this from you, so therefore, it's like, no, like I'm there for you also.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a difference in like
Definitely.
needing something from somebody or, coming in and trying to help them, And so people, whether they know it or not, they want to surround themselves with those people. And if you're that person, then you most likely will have more opportunities than the person that's not or something,
Definitely.
But I'm just speaking from my thing,
Totally, man.
There's so many people that approach it in so many different ways, and that works with their personality and everything.
Yeah.
But just speaking from seeing people not get opportunities or not get embraced or included with communities. When I think about like the common denominator to those people, the deja vu moments of those people, usually people that it's pretty obvious that they're just about themselves.
Definitely.
And that they're just needing something from you, and humanity doesn't want to be around that.
No way, man. It's like, it's bad juju. It's bad vibes. It's just like, I think it's like, if you truly love photography, like the main reason I started this thing is like, it's like, because I didn't have like a huge community, so I was like, man, I just want to fucking bro down and shoot the shit with photographers and hear what they're doing. It's not like I don't make any money from this. I just do it because I love it and get to learn from photographers. And it's like, I think it goes back to what you say, like, just focus on your craft. Don't worry about like the results in terms of like a gallery show or book. Just like focus on your craft and have fun with it, and like whatever, like if shit happens, comes your way, it will come your way. If not, like that's just the breaks.
Well, yeah, and that's not, and I understand what you're saying. I just want to clarify that's not really what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm more saying that a community will help you get those opportunities to be in the galleries. I'm not saying don't aspire to the gallery. That could be your main thing, and that's good.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
But the process in doing that, I'm more saying that a community would maybe help usher that desire in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than, but some people could do a cold call or whatever. Mine is just what I've seen as an approach that that I've, experienced with kind of those aspirations. It's like the communities can help usher in, help you get those opportunities, because it's just like anything, man. Like emotional connection is everything, because, Vans was doing a thing at their retail stores for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it was encouraging college students,
Yeah.
And these students aren't necessarily skaters. They're like in sororities and frat, or or just they weren't coming from skateboarding per se. And so basically they were getting artists to speak to them at the Vans retail stores, and they were like, Ray, would you talk with them? And I was like, yeah, I'll talk with them. And when I started to think about, like, man, what could, I didn't go to college. I had an opportunity to have my own board end of senior year. So, I was able to keep everybody at bay with all the questions of like, so what are you going to do? What college are you going to do? And I was like, holding my board or whatever. I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to try the skateboard thing for a year or so, or whatever. I had no idea I'd be 30 or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyways, I was like, man, I didn't go to school. I didn't go to college. So I can't relate to them on that level. Like, what can I encourage them with? And that's what I was talking to him about, is like, yeah, you have your subject matter that you're studying, right? But just as important, if not more, is building community. Mm-hmm. It's like the community, because here's the thing, like when you leave college and you get out into the world and now it's time to find a job, like you're going to need somebody rooting for you.
Yeah.
And the reality is it doesn't have to be much, because Jen in human resource could put in a word for her son's friend's mom,
Yep.
and she'll get put to the front of the application list, not being as qualified as everything under, just because of that.
Yep.
As little as that, you know?
Definitely.
And so just, again, the importance of community, like we need each other, and the role that plays towards, you know, these dreams and aspirations. And I think skateboarding, we're spoiled because it's inherent.
Yeah.
You automatically have it.
Yeah, that is
You
like
don't
the
have to
coolest
build
thing
it.
about skateboarding. Like, you can pretty much, you don't even have to be a pro skateboarder. You can just be like, it's a normal skateboarder. It's like you do it for fun. You can go pretty much any country, any city in America, and you can go to a local spot and you'll find a friend. Like, it's pretty cool.
Exactly, man. Yeah. And so I'm speaking from a spoiled place.
Yeah.
But it doesn't do away with the truth of it, or the principle. You know what I mean? And it might be more challenging. Might be more challenging for other, you know, interests and things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's worth getting over that learning curve, because you need it. You know.
Well, that's all good advice, man. I can't thank you enough, Ray. And it was a real pleasure talking to you. Like I said, big fan of your music, your skateboarding, everything, and it was a real pleasure talking to you. So I can't thank you enough for doing this, man.
Oh, right on, Alex. Yeah, thanks for having me on board, man. Super cool podcast, and yeah, man, honored to be a part of it.
So there you have it. That was the Ray Barbee interview. Just want to thank Ray so much for taking the time to come on the podcast. Like I said, I've been a big fan of Ray's skateboarding since I was a kid, as well as his music and photography. Just a really creative guy, and this brings a lot of positivity to everything he does. So it's a real pleasure getting a chance to speak with him. Definitely go check out Ray's Instagram at r.barbie. You can see a lot of the work he's doing, photography, skateboarding, lots of cool stuff up there. I'll post the link in the description, but definitely go give him a follow. And as always, I'll be having weekly podcasts on iTunes, Spotify, as well as our YouTube page, The Photo Banter. So definitely go check it out there. And yeah, thanks so much for listening, and take care.